What's up everyone, it's
Bloodbow.
I'm back with another Genshin video. I've had Razor for a while, since around December of 2020, and just never got around to leveling or building him. He looks pretty cool, so I decided to get him all the way up to max ascension and his normal attacks and burst to level 8. I had absolutely no lightning prisms farmed up from the electro hypostasis or enough talent books to get talents past level 3. With fragile resins from the battle pass and topping off with prima gems that I should have been saving for the Kujou rerun coming soon, I managed to get the talents and ascensions leveled up to where I wanted them. For a character I never played before, I sure have a really good constellation for him. C1 called Wolf's Instinct is nice. An additional 10% damage buff every 8 seconds is solid. From what I can tell, Razor can keep that buff up 100% of the time with his skill since he can cast it every 6 seconds. The hold damage is really nice, but it's probably best to use like Eula uses her skill. C2, Suppression, looks good on paper, but I just don't think it's something we can get a lot of use out of. I mean, most monsters die pretty quickly, and we don't really have a lot of drawn out fights in Genshin where we can get a lot of use out of it. I don't have it, but C4 Bite is also something that would be really great to have. Physical resistance decrease is super hard to come by in Genshin, with very few characters having access to it inside their kits. This is why Superconduct is so important for that 40% decrease. If you've ever looked at the resistances in game, physical is typically always much higher on the large monsters that appear in the Spiral Abyss, and physical teams don't have access to something great like 4-piece Viridescent. When it comes to physical damage, I'm pretty sure Razor was the OG carry besides something like Fischl or maybe Kujou. Eula is like a carbon copy of Razor, except a lot of what teams before her couldn't do, she has access to. Huge burst potential, physical resistance decrease, and even a defense bonus to help people that don't know how to dodge have a more comfortable time. I played a decent amount of her, so it'll be interesting to see what Razor can do for us. I'm thinking for a team I want a good cryo support. I'm pretty fond of Rosaria, and also her C6 Divine Retribution will help Razor with the physical resistance shred he needs. I normally play her in a freeze team with Mona, as typically she's my Noblesse user. I probably won't need to keep Rosaria on Favlance, and I'll need to switch to Noblesse. I've heard of Sunfire Razor, but I prefer not to break up my national team by removing Bennett, so I'd like to use other characters, that way I can have another usable team in Spiral Abyss. Since I'm not using Bennett, something I could do instead of using him or Fischl, as typically people do, maybe I can just put in Kujou Sara. Kujou Sara can grant attack buffs similar to Bennett, so this can be helpful. I also have her C6 constellation Sin of Pride, where electro damage of characters that have their attack increased by her skill have increased crit damage. This means we can be budget physical Raiden, maybe, or that's just way too dank. For our last spot, I think what's best here would probably be Xingqiu. He can give Razor damage reduction and a slight heal, and of course be a nice source of extra damage. With the current iteration of Spiral Abyss not having Rift Hounds or Lectors to apply debuffs, just means that heals don't have as much importance. Of course, if I don't dodge well, encounters become a lot harder. Before I go into the Spiral Abyss with this team, I'm going to just quickly test it out on a boss monster that will appear in one of the chambers. One of the things I've seen people do in videos sometimes is test themselves on the Whopper plants. The issue with that being that they have such low resistances, especially physical compared to a lot of other monsters, it doesn't really provide a challenge that tells us anything of importance. Or at least that's what I believe. The perpetual mechanical array will definitely be a lot harder in the spiral abyss than the overworld, with it being level 100 instead of 93, but Razor is still able to do some damage. I'm mostly concerned with how fast I can burn down the ad without losing too many bursts in the process. I kind of already knew beforehand which side I wanted Razor on, since the first half has a lot of cryo monsters. It'd probably be best to have my Razor team on the second half instead. It's still going to be rough, but Razor can get it done. Okay, so it seems like my Pale Flame set just isn't good enough right now. My crit damage is high, but my crit rate can't really benefit me. Since Razor is about consistent damage, I just can't do a lot with it. Of course, a crit rate helm would help fix that, but I haven't been lucky enough for that. I could swap to this Electro Goblet to keep the 4-piece, but let's try Gladiators and see what happens. To swap to Gladiators, it looks like I've had a big improvement in how far I can push. The only issue is I just can't beat the perpetual mechanical array. That was probably my best attempt like this. I was thinking though that with my best electro goblet being pale flame, I'll probably get a lot less out of my Kujou Sara. Maybe by swapping to my electro goblet that would give me 4-piece pale flame, I could push a little bit further, and I'm probably getting a lot less out of my Kujou Sara by not having better electro damage anyways. So maybe by changing back to pale flame I can do this. To be honest, I don't think Kujou Sara and Razor synergize well with one another, and I can probably get more out of a different character. I guess there is a reason why Razor teams run Fischl. I'm going to swap to her and have her on a Tenacity of Millilith set, and also change my goblet back to physical and try out Redhorn Stone Thresher. I took a little break while working on this video, and later on while using my daily resin, I managed to get a crit rate helm for pale flame. Since it failed, I'll just say that running 4-piece pale flame with electric goblet instead of physical with Kujou Sara didn't really perform much better than originally, and even with Fischl in, it still wasn't enough. Now with this better artifact set, Razor can go all out. It's not exactly surprising to me that Razor was able to get 3 stars on each floor. Most characters can actually manage to do that. Of course, a lot of the reason why this team was able to succeed was due to the heavy lifting of the other team, and I think that's a testament to why those characters are so meta. I knew beforehand Razor wasn't meta, so I guess that's just a testament to that. Overall, he's pretty fun. I do enjoy the Unga Bunga mindset that comes with physical and normal attack based characters. I've played Eula in the past a lot, so one of my main takeaways from this was I like how Razor is much less restricted in how you have to play, as well as the fact that you can't immediately start generating particles for Eula's next burst while waiting for the Lightfall sword to descend. Feels really bad in comparison to Razor. This video is about Razor, so I won't go further in comparison territory with this. I'll likely do that at a later time. When it comes to the future and other iterations of the Spiral Abyss, I think that it's great to have an additional character that I can play different comps around. This doesn't necessarily mean that I will prioritize playing more Razor, especially with him, of course, not being meta. Meta just makes it a lot easier to get through the content. I mean, that's why it's meta. I would probably default most of the time to that. But when I want to have additional ways to play the game and get more enjoyment out of Genshin, this is something I can do in that time period. This video is a lot different than a lot of the other ones I've done before, so if you really enjoyed it and you want to see more like it or just see me use Razor in other ways, let me know in the comments. And if you would like other people to see this video as well, it really helps to like the video. This just pushes it into the algorithm. If you want to see any more Genshin related content, and also I do some Lost Ark content as well, subscribe for all of that.